We are live. Hey, how about you, everybody? Welcome into this week's edition of the Auburn Live call-in show. I'm your host, Jeffrey Lee, Senior Recruiting Editor for Auburn Live on 3. If you're not a member of that site, boy, have you been missing out on some coverage of this just massive Junior Day. Auburn conjured up on Saturday, followed it up with a handful of studs on Sunday. We've had all the coverage all weekend long. Auburn Live on 3. If you're not a member, you can still get signed up. But we will we'll get to all that stuff. That's what we're here for tonight. Joining me, as they always are, to help me weed through all this information that we've got rounded up, Mr. Jhead, Mr. Cole Pinkston, Mr. Keith Niebuhr back in the Sunshine State. Are you, Keith?
Yeah.
I'm boy, exhausted. You look poop, dude.
Here's the thing: I made a mistake of getting just north of what's that town? Dawson. Trey Bishop was from. What's the town down?
Yeah, that's Dawson.
Yeah, toward. I'm confused here. I made the mistake of getting the jumbo Cajun boiled peanuts, and I think for about the next 5 hours, it was like Mount Vesuvius inside my stomach. So yeah,
Hey, everybody likes their own brand. At least you were alone.
I'm still like.
All right, there you go.
Yeah. Look, we got everything covered. I mean, there's so much, Jeffrey, and so much going on this weekend, and yeah, a lot of good stuff out there. Good vibes too.
Yep, definitely.
Hey, let me before we get started, I know we're going to get to the phone lines. If you haven't called in, if you're not waiting, go ahead and get on there, 701-779-9585. We're going to get to the phones as soon as we can. Also, if you've got if you're a little hesitant about jumping on with that voice of yours, you can always ask your questions in the comments. We'll hit that later in the show or any downtime we get. But we certainly want to prioritize the phone lines. Before we get started, I know somebody was asking me about a house, needed to sell a house, needed to buy a house. I got the person for you folks. Jessica Andrews with eXp Realty, Auburn, Opelika, Lee County. She can do it all, folks. As Jhead says, she's a 5-star realtor. Yeah. Residential investment property. She does it all. 334-704-4442. Jessica Andrews with eXp Realty. Tell her we sent you. All right, folks. We are coming off a crazy contact period.
Yes.
That period begins, I think, tonight at midnight, if I'm not mistaken. And what a way to go out for Auburn. Keith, you showed up in Auburn Saturday morning, probably saw the sun come up. So you were and watched it go down.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on this massive 204, Keith?
Well, first of all, we know that's too many.
Right.
And why do we say that? If you're an Auburn fan, you're thinking, no, that's great. That's great. Get 204 is a lot more than 13 or whatever it was last year.
It was 13.
Yeah.
And the reason is that we know there was some concern. Jeffrey and I and Cole were talking to people there. The only concern really was there were so many people there. You only have so many coaches, so many assistants to those on the field coaches, and so many behind the scenes recruiting people. I mean, they got a huge staff. Auburn's got a significantly large staff of people that are well equipped to handle a large number of recruits. But that was just a lot. But other than that, when that's your only complaint, and everything was so positive from the recruits, from their families, and the positivity started with, first and foremost, Hugh Freeze is connecting with people on a personal level. And, we thought that would be the case. We've all met him, but you never really know, right? But that was absolutely true. And two, what they're saying about that facility, the football facility, these guys, they're not in that NIL world yet. They're not even thinking about that. They're thinking about, am I connecting with coaches? Are they the kind of people that I could see myself playing for? Am I getting that home feeling? And what kind of facility am I going to be studying in, training in, practicing in? And in that respect, probably tens all across the board for Auburn yesterday. Again, the only concern, Jeffrey, was that there were too many kids there. But again, other than that, that's better than no kids there. If that's
and
problem, that's a good problem.
And I was going to say this, man. The only recruit that mattered, that complained about it, and he complained. He was straight up honest, man. There's too many people here. It wasn't very good for me. And if that's not what you were expecting, if you were expecting big cat type vibes, if you were expecting one-on-one official visit time, then you came to the wrong day. Okay, and it was Jamarian Burnett, the 4-star running back from Andalusia. Other than that, dude, nobody had anything negative to say about it.
Nothing.
The people that say it was too many was you and me and maybe some staffers or some high school coaches that, the recruits certainly didn't complain.
Yeah. Let me be clear about that. Nobody was bitching about it.
No.
A few people asked.
No, it's not bitching.
We did have a few people on the staff say, hey, did anybody complain about that? Not really. I mean, it was listen, nobody that
mattered.
Nobody. They did a great job.
That's not a shot at Jamarian. I'm just saying the people that we heard that there were concerns about me. Brooks. Sorry. The people that we heard there were concerns about or bringing that up were not elite recruits.
Yeah.
When we were talking about that.
You had to step away, but I was just saying that sorry, Jhead, but real quick, but it was just the simple fact that they wanted to know how they connected to Freeze and his staff, especially Freeze, and that was a 10 to a man. Everybody was, blown away by his presentation and his personal touch. He didn't get to spend time with 200, but probably a few dozen. And then the facility, obviously, was eye-opening. So I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jhead.
Well, I was going to say, and look, I kind of asked around after I saw that note posted by you and Jeffrey with regard to Fat Burnett. Had Cadillac Williams been there, I don't even think that would have been a complaint because he would have gotten the personal time with the person that he came there to speak with in the first place. But logistically speaking, that was something I was very interested in, how they were going to handle this large weekend going into this. And by all accounts, they did. When you have 206 players on campus, and look, not every one of those were elite guys. Okay, some of those were teammates of these elite guys.
I'm gonna get to that in a minute.
Yeah, that came along with these guys. But when you're moving people around from photo shoots to getting measurements to being in front of the coordinators, the position coaches, the tours on campus, the tours of the facility, and you're handling that many people and their parents, that's a phenomenal undertaking. And the off-the-field staff should be given kudos for handling that the way they did. So to do that, I'm going to start the show giving a shout-out to Brent Bedsole, Director of High School Recruiting, Ethan Johnson, Director of Recruiting Communication, A.K. Magula, Director of Player Personnel, John Miller, the new General Manager, and then the ladies who should not be forgotten, Kendall Lambert, the new Director of On-Campus Recruiting, Bianca Webb, Natasha Sanders, and Riley Wooten. I think they all did a fantastic job from everything that I've been able to hear. And look.
Don't forget Kennedy.
Yeah, and Kennedy. Excuse me. So I can't remember the last time we had an event that large where you had that many kids that you were trying to make sure. And look at the buzz that it generated. When you can say I had 206 kids on your campus, that's something you want the media to put out because it makes Auburn appealing, right? It shows Auburn in demand. And whether those all were high-ranked kids or not, it's irrelevant because it shows there are people that want to be at Auburn. And those are the kind of positive things you want out there.
Good problem to have. But the only, again, let me stress this. Everything was great. The only concern was when you have almost too many people, and Jeffrey knows this firsthand, if you're staff, you only get a kid on campus so many times. You just want to be the important guys. You want to be able to spend as much time as possible with them. Now that you can do. But you also don't want to, these are good guys, man. They don't want, most of them, I'm sure. They don't want to have to tell people, hey, I don't have time for you. Anybody, even a lower level person. So, it's a little tricky. It's a little bit of a slippery slope. But again, the kids that they've targeted, and by the way, some of these guys that were there over the weekend aren't big targets now and might be in 6 months, right?
Right.
So you never know who's going to grow and develop and all that stuff. So that's why you're nice to everybody. But no, I mean, we haven't heard anything that didn't lead you to believe it wasn't a success. Now, people say fans always want the metric is how many commitments. But as we say every year at Big Cat Weekend, it's more about how many you get down the road. And we think Cole was on top of this and Jeffrey too. We all think that I was following their lead, quite frankly. We all think that the bricks were laid or whatever. The groundwork was laid, commitments to come and maybe soon. Okay. Yeah. There's buzz. There's considerable buzz out there.
Hey, Cole, give me your quick thoughts on yesterday. You were right in the heart of it, and then I want to get to the phone line, Zach.
Yeah, but we got some callers, but I kind of caught wind that a couple of guys, and there were a couple more, Jeffrey, Keith, that said to me, even during the day, hey, the lines are really long. I don't really like that. I wanted a little bit more one-on-one time. One of them was Kanan Daniels, the running back from Mississippi. The other one was Joseph Phillips, who is the 2024 linebacker from Tuskegee. But before I could even respond to Joseph, he comes back and he says, but Coach Freeze did, and a couple of the coaches, Coach Aldridge, they did come back and they made sure, to invite me back, tell me they wanted me, and he felt like they were, pushing for him pretty hard. So I think there was a concerted effort to get back to some of these guys that were important, and all of them were telling me, look, I got invited back in the spring. I'm definitely going to be here. So they took care of some things like that at the same time with all those people.
Good stuff. Hey, Zach, get us to the phones, big dog.
All right. 1370. You're live. Who we talking to? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Lord George from Nashville.
Hey,
LG.
Welcome back, big dog.
Sorry I missed you guys. I'm like Cole here. I have the AFC Championship on in the background.
Yeah, Cole, we can see it in your picture.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Thank God that's
But,
what
man, so much coverage. You guys, your fingers, I guess, are probably bleeding with all that typing and whatnot. But I guess speaking of surprising, I guess with Keith's Cajun bowl peanuts, what was the most surprising, I guess, take from each of y'all for this weekend? Whether it's the number of recruits or class of recruits, that sort of thing. Just wondering your most surprising thing.
Hey, good stuff, LG. I appreciate your call. This is a good opportunity for me to say that we were tracking the running list of this visitors list for this day. And it started out by Thursday night, 50, then 60, and then it was 75, and then by the time mid morning on Saturday it was 150, and then by the end of the day it was 205. But and I listen, I don't think you will ever see this again under Hugh Freeze. I don't think we'll see the numbers like that ever again.
Right.
That was a one-time blowout. Get them on campus. Let's see if we can get them back. And Keith, you said it earlier. I'll be curious to see when this class is all said and done, how many of that class was there yesterday. Yeah. LG, but there was the old school invitations used to be mailed out or emailed. Well, this new day and age is this QVC code or
QR code.
That's what I said. And these kids
also,
get that.
Summers can get you a necklace and jewelry kit from the QVC code.
There you go. But the kids were sharing this code with teammates and friends, and before you knew it, and there were lines from the Tiger Walk entrance of the stadium to the intersection there back in the streets, and it was out of control with the number. Now, they did a fantastic job of appeasing the majority of that crowd. But I think, LG, to answer your question, my biggest surprise was at the end of the day being told 204 is what we ended up with.
Yeah.
And I thought, my gosh.
I'd say my biggest surprise was, first of all, the number of elite linebackers that were there.
Yes.
And Josh Aldridge, the way that he handled that, I thought he was fantastic.
He was fantastic.
I thought he was an all-star out there, and everybody was doing well. But he just, we just happened to see him a little bit more than everybody else.
People need to know this. Josh Aldridge, the first-year linebackers coach at Auburn, at least he came from
Liberty
with Hugh Freeze. Dude, he was out there when nobody else was. It was just us. It was me, Cole, and Keith there in the morning by ourselves, and Josh Aldridge out there ready to shake anybody's hands who walked up. He met all his stud linebackers out front. He walked them in. He met linebacker. I mean, he met defensive linemen, offensive linemen, anybody that walked up. He was there to greet them with a hello and a handshake. And I have heard nothing but rave reviews about this guy's work ethic.
Yeah,
I mean, stuff that make me go, "You got to be kidding me, dude."
A couple of these guys, Miles Graham, who's committed to Florida, top 60, 50 recruit, whatever he is, top guy in the country. He says he really likes Auburn. Obviously, he's got the connection with Cadillac and his dad, who is Keith. Tell me who he is again.
Ernest Graham.
Yep, Ernest Graham, the running back.
Bucks running back. I guess my biggest surprise was like Jeff, the number, which I thought was 203, but now it keeps growing. It's going to be Jeff and I by tomorrow. We'll be telling everybody there were 400 people there, but it was really that there were so many. And speaking of Josh Aldridge, let me backtrack. I was back to the facility. I couldn't sleep, and I'm coming from the Eastern time zone, so I was up really early. And by the way, hard freeze that morning on the ground, and I was scraping ice off the car.
Me too.
You know.
Then
Anyway, Josh Aldridge. I got to the facility at 6:45, and Cole got there maybe not long after me.
yeah,
He went
me too, right?
Yeah, well, you were there at 5, I think, but no, but we saw Aldridge out jogging at like 7 in the morning.
Yeah, he was.
He left, jogged, came back, and then started his work day. For all I know, he started before he jogged. But the biggest surprise to me was how many commits from other schools were there, and not just regular commits that they don't want to lose. Like Miles Graham, Florida, apparently it does have some concern about him. I mean, it's a Gator legacy. His dad was a Gator great running back, but he's really good friends with Cadillac Williams. So there's some concern that they think if anybody could sway him away, it would be Auburn, and that's maybe it. Zion Ferguson, the LSU commit. Help me out here, guys. Sterling Dixon, the Bama, and then the 2 Georgia commits. We knew one was coming. We knew which one did we know, guys? I've been
DeMarcus Riddick. Yeah, I have got
Riddick.
so many names going through my. It's DeMarcus Riddick. We knew was coming.
From Chilton County, right?
Carr.
Nycar.
Nycar is from. Isn't he from Colquitt County?
Yes.
Which I drove through today. Okay, and so we didn't know. We knew there were going to be really good players there, but again, those aren't just 5 guys that those schools will just let go. Those are guys that they don't probably want visiting Auburn. Okay,
Alabama. You always talk about who your wins against, Keith. Alabama, Florida, LSU, Georgia. Those 5 guys are committed to those 4 schools.
Yeah.
Which leads me into my most surprising point: having another 7 or 8 elite guys on campus today, after having 204 on campus yesterday, and headlined by Bradley Shaw and a handful of others that were on campus. And we talked about linebacker being a position of need. You're potentially losing up to 5 guys in this upcoming class. You have got to hit home runs here. You can't just have some 3-star guys that you're going to project up at some point. These need to be guys that are ready to step on the field right away. And you had those on campus this past, on Saturday and again on Sunday. So having the wherewithal to say, you know what, we had a blowout day on Saturday. We're not going to bring people in on Sunday. No, we're going to put our nose to the grindstone. We're going to bring everybody in that we can that wants a view of this new football facility and wants to meet with this coaching staff. So that was my surprise that, you know what, hey, we're not going to stop on Saturday. We're going to keep rolling on Sunday.
Yeah.
Jhead, on my drive today, I had to kill some time, and I talked to some reporters that cover other programs. And I don't want to say what programs, but 2 of the guys, I only talked to 2, but they both said, no, I don't think they've got any visitors today, talking about the programs they cover.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You got to look tonight, like Jeffrey said, the dead period starts. It's one more full day to get guys on campus. You don't waste time. What did we see last year? Brian Harsin during the January, he did not go on the road for like 5 days. He had a Thursday, Friday, whatever, then a Monday, Tuesday, then he finally went on the road. This year, the period that you could go on the road started on a Friday. Hugh Freeze was in Little Rock that morning at 7 a.m. You don't waste opportunities. You only have so much time to take advantage of these days now, okay? And Auburn's not wasting any time. Now, they've got a huge staff. Doesn't mean every coach was there. Doesn't mean any coaches have to be there. You're off the field people. Now you've got assistant O-line coaches, assistant cornerback coaches. You got staffs are like NFL staffs now. It's crazy. And so they can handle a lot of these visits too sometimes. If it's a higher level guy, obviously you're going to want your coaches there. But no, we saw this with Gus's staff. That's one thing they were good at, Jeffrey. Middle of nowhere on a Sunday afternoon, there'd be a surprise visit. I think that's how it's going to be with these guys. They're not going to turn down. They're not going to say no to somebody that's pretty good. Okay, if they want to visit, you come on by. We'll figure it out.
I know for a fact that one guy that was on campus, sort of an under the radar guy, Kalari Gordon, he said he was invited Saturday and he already had plans. So they said, okay, Sunday.
Yeah.
And they probably did that with tons of guys.
Yeah, I was going to say most of these guys were elsewhere yesterday, couldn't make it to Auburn. They said, we'll come over on Sunday. And they did. Let me give you a real quick rundown, Zach, then I want to get to our get back. 4-star Cameron Coleman was expected. These are the guys we expected to be here today and visited today. Cameron Coleman, 4-star wide receiver, 4-star top 100 overall recruit. Jordan Ross from Vestavia, he's an edge. Bradley Shaw, Jhead mentioned him. He's a top 250 player, 4-star. Corian Gibson, one of the top safeties in the country, top 100 overall player. Blake Franks, interior offensive lineman. Auburn loves this kid. He's from Greenville, South Carolina. He was in. And then Keith, your boy Zayden Walker, and a teammate, Jalewis Solomon, 2 younger guys. But Zayden Walker is a future 5-star. I think he's a number 3 overall recruit in the 2025 class, number 3. So he's a future 5-star. The number 1 edge in the junior class was Keith. That's Zeke's brother, right?
It is, I believe. I believe so. Actually,
I think it was Zayden was with.
Hold on a second. Both of them are his brother, believe it or not. Both those kids. They have different last names, but I believe that somebody at their school told me that they're both Zykevis Walker's brothers. Now, those are kids getting recruited by a lot of schools. You got to get them on campus. And then if Zykevis Walker's role goes up, I mean, there's a lot of
angles here.
It's never too late anymore, especially with NIL and everybody's committing. Even under the old staff, when a guy committed, they would tell him, keep recruiting me. Keep recruiting me. And so that's kind of how it is these days, But yeah, those are big ones. Cameron Coleman, because obviously we thought Coleman would be there Saturday. And then he's like, I'm going to be at Kentucky today. And we're all like, oh my God, what in God's name?
That was the first piece of news of the day. So we were like, oh man.
All right, Zach, keep us rolling, big dog.
5411. You're live. Who we talking to? Where are you calling from?
What's going on, fellas? This is Big Pat.
What's up, Big Pat?
Man, I can't call it.
What's on your mind tonight, big dog?
Man, I got a lot on my mind.
I
I got about 45 questions.
Well,
Give top,
2.
Give me your top ones.
My top one is what's going on with Auburn and Aaron Nolan?
Okay, that's a good question, man. That's something that I want to address. Hold on, Pat. Keith?
No, I'll let you. Why don't we just each question, just one of us answer so we can get to more of his questions?
Pat, I don't think this staff is as high on Aaron Nolan as the previous staff. I don't think he's even a top 5 guy on the board right now. I don't know that if his game, his fit with Hugh Freeze in this offense, I just don't see it. I haven't heard the buzz around Aaron Nolan. To be honest with you, he's one of the few quarterbacks I'm really not tracking right now. Yep. Not with this new staff.
Right.
All right, what's next? What's his next one?
Oh, my next one was how serious is Auburn on Malcolm Simmons, the athlete out of Benjamin Russell?
Yeah, I talked to Malcolm briefly after his visit. They have not offered him yet, Big Pat, but I think it's coming. He's a really good athlete. You obviously know a little bit about him. He seemed to he told me that he thought an offer was coming. So
tell everybody what position he plays and what school he's at.
Benjamin Russell, and he's an athlete, offense and defense. Yeah, he does.
We talking wide receiver, DB here?
Yeah,
okay.
Skilled player. I don't know where Auburn likes him. I'm going to guess DB. I think he talked a lot with Zach Etheridge, so that would probably be where he got the offer from if he got it.
All right, Big Pat, you got any more for us?
No, that'll be it. I think that was pretty much it for me.
Hey, Big Pat, we appreciate you, big dog. Have that grill ready for us in the fall.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Oh yeah, hey, I'm already excited. I already bought me a new one.
All right.
Ooh.
We'll be by to check it out.
Yeah. Of course. Y'all more than welcome.
Appreciate you, Big Pat.
Take care, man.
Zach, we cleared?
No, we still got 3 more.
Oh, my bad.
Roll them in.
396. You're live. Who we talking to? Where are you calling from?
Okay, so this is Michael Floyd from Auburn, Alabama.
Hey, all right. What's up, Michael?
So, my question is, so how many guys from Junior Day are we expecting to commit or flip to Auburn in the coming days? Is there a timeline for that? I'm just curious about that.
Great question, Michael. We appreciate your call, man. I've been on 2 guys for the past 24 hours. I was even working with them today. I'm expecting a couple of commitments this week. I don't want to, I just expect it to be in the next coming day, in the coming days. Both 4-star guys, and I think there'll be huge additions for Auburn. But yeah, I think by the end of the day, Friday, Auburn will have tripled its commitments for the 2024 and 2025 classes. Good stuff, Michael. Appreciate you bringing that up. We needed to address that.
42 895. You're live. Who we talking to? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Ward Eagle from Texas.
What's up, Ward Dan?
How y'all?
Doing well, man. You're a great poster to Auburn Live on 3, man. We appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Two quick questions. All right. The first is, who did Auburn make the biggest move for this weekend? Whoever won. Number 2 is, who is going to be your dark horse that there may be doubts, ups, downs, coasters, but at the end of the day, ends up with Auburn, and no one else might think so.
Okay.
Thank you guys for what you do.
Appreciate you, Ward Dan.
Good question.
Ward Dan. All right. Biggest move for Keith, Cole. We talked to a lot of kids. I'm trying to go back through them in my mind. Biggest move for, I think, I've got to, I think, already Jaden Lewis, I was thinking, big move for these are new. This is a new staff for these kids. Biggest move for.
I'm going to
give me some options, Jhead.
I'm going to give you Justin Green.
Okay.
Edge. I think reading his statements and the competition that we're up against in that recruitment, I think that's a guy that you just made a major move for as far as that's concerned.
Very good pick there, Jhead. I talked to him. That was the one I wrote. He really liked it, and he's coming back as soon as they give him a call. He said,
DeMarcus Riddick. Now I don't know that we're going to flip that kid, but you're in the game now, and you weren't in the game before. So you made a major move in that recruitment within the last 2 weeks. I think that's the other one. Reading the comments and what the kid had to say as far as his connection with Josh Aldridge and Hugh Freeze, and then how he would be utilized in the scheme. I think you made a serious move there. And then last but not least, I would go Travaris Banks. I really liked what he had to say and the competition you're up against with Auburn, Tennessee, and
FSU.
South Carolina, Florida State. I'm sorry.
FSU, which has a new DB coach.
Yes.
So, I think that helps Auburn.
I think those 3 are the ones you probably helped yourself with the most. If I read the content correctly and I'm reading what you guys probably felt when you were reporting it, those are the 3 that jump out to me where you really kind of made a move.
And I want to throw a couple of offensive linemen in there as well. Egan Boyer, and then Cole. Who you talked to that stud, big ass dude, Jaquan McCray.
He was going to be McCroy. Jaquan McCroy, yeah. And he was going to be my pick. Him and Justin Green. Those were my picks.
Green with an E on the end.
Yes.
Ward Dan also wanted to know kind of a dark horse who Auburn could end up with that maybe we didn't think so. Maybe a Zion Ferguson.
I'm going to go with Miles Graham again.
Graham, Keith. Damn.
I don't know what's going to happen here. Okay? At the end of the day, my gut says the guy's going to stick with Florida, but he was a little bit. The family ain't in Florida. They live in College Park, Georgia. Okay.
Yes.
Woodward Academy is sort of like a school that sends a lot of people to Auburn for athletics, for just regular students. Yeah. That side of Atlanta, people love Auburn. And the dad's super close with Cadillac Williams, an old Auburn running back, old Florida running back, who are teammates for the Bucks and are longtime buddies. And they feel comfortable. He would feel comfortable. Now his son will be linebacker, obviously not a running back, but he would feel comfortable knowing that he's got Cadillac over there to look after his son. And then other thing to watch is, what if Florida throws up a 4-win season this year?
Sure.
And that could happen.
All of a sudden, there's uncertainty. Would they get rid of their coach? Would they let him coach 1 year, but then go into next year with a cloud over his head? It's always a little bit tricky. Now, they could turn around and win 10 too. It could go in the other direction, but that could be one that's a dark horse and a lot of roller coaster activity as well.
Keith,
he may come out tomorrow and say, "Nah, I'm done with visits."
Don't forget too, Keith. You were standing there too. I asked him about Damari Austin, who was a former teammate of his, and he kind of threw his head back. He was like, "Oh, that's a huge deal. That's like a brother to me too." So there's another factor for him.
Hey,
go ahead, Jeffrey. I'm sorry.
This is right up your alley, Jhead. This kid was one of those stud linebackers, but Auburn offered this kid. I think he's an in-state kid, D'Angelo Barber.
Yeah,
from Clay Chalkville.
Watched a lot of his tape.
2024 kid. I hadn't really heard of the kid until yesterday, and Auburn offered him while he was on campus. So I'll throw his name in the mix. I'd put it that way, Jhead.
I think Auburn has decided that the days of letting some of these unheralded, the 2 or 3 a year go off and end up playing in the NFL, like one of these guys playing for the Bengals today, Cam Taylor.
Yeah.
I think these guys behind the scenes are thinking there's got to be a way to make sure those days are over.
Still begged Malzahn to take that kid too. I mean, begged. I'm going to agree with Keith on this one, and for a little bit different rationale than the relation. I mean, I think the relationship with Caddy is obviously what got your foot in the door, but I think there are a lot of guys that do not want their kid to play at the same university that they attended if they were a star player, because of the amount of pressure that's heaped upon them. Think about the way Bo Nix has responded since he's been in Oregon, not having to live up in his dad's shadow. Think about the kid that just transferred from LSU to Ole Miss to get out from underneath his father's shadow at LSU. I think, if you look at playing time, and this kid is obviously very interested in playing early, we can offer that. You have a relationship with Carnell, and you don't have the added pressure. And to Keith's point about Florida, look, you think our quarterback situation's tough? Try rolling Graham Mertz out, okay, behind that offensive line with everything they just lost. They just lost 5 starters. And I don't even really know. Other than one kid they got from Baylor, I don't know what they got in the transfer portal. There wasn't a lot.
Yeah. Again, I think this could have some, peaks and valleys. And at the end of the day, it's still going to be hard to get him, but I think Auburn's got a shot. I mean, Florida picked up an elite linebacker yesterday, Darius Hayes from Largo, Florida. They put there's a lot of linebackers in the NFL in the last 20 years that went to that school. That's been one of their better positions. So they're going to be selling that too. But, sometimes it's beyond that. Where am I connecting? Where's my connection? And Auburn's is 90 minutes away. So they're going to certainly be able to get him on campus. And he said, even with the old staff, he was super high on Auburn. So anyway, just somebody to watch. We'll see. It might be nothing. It might be something.
All right, Zach, we got any more for us?
Yeah, 2 more.
Okay.
9124. You're live. Who we talking to? Where are you calling from?
Scott.
No.
9124. You're live.
Hey, Scott. So that's my buddy Scott.
Buddy. Yeah. Hey, go ahead, Scott.
Take your time, buddy.
He's here.
I know about Hunter.
Did you say Hunter? Maybe Jarquez Hunter? Is that what he's talking about?
Say it again, Scott.
Hunter. I want to talk about Hunter.
He wants to talk about something. Scott wants to talk about something, Scott. Say it one more time for us, big dog.
I think he'll be a good running back.
Jarquez Hunter. You were right, Jhead. Scott, I believe you want to know about Jarquez Hunter. Listen, I'm right there with you, big dog. I was on the Jarquez Hunter train for a while, and I still am. I love Jarquez Hunter. I liked him even when Tank was here.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how he'll be as the premier back. I think he's going to be really good. He is a good player. I think he might be even a little bit more dynamic than Tank, honestly. I think he's got some moves. I think he runs through traffic. I think he's a great back.
So
okay. Go ahead. So, Keith. I'm sorry.
This is Scott calling?
Mm-hmm.
So, Scott, we ran into just the last few days, we've run into a running back that's currently on the team, we'll just say. And you'll like this. He said that he loves the competition. All of them. They love in that room the competition. They're glad that Brian Battie is coming. They're glad that they feel like that the kid from Montgomery Catholic, that Jeremiah Cobb is coming. They feel like it's going to make them all better. So competition is what's better. I got to apologize to Scott. I couldn't hear. I didn't know what he was saying, and I'm sorry I was rude there. So Scott, appreciate you calling, man.
Listen, I want to say something about Jarquez, Keith. I don't know if y'all noticed yesterday, and this is the second time I've seen him do this. When it's a big recruiting day, even back when the transfers, he's there helping with. He's helping bringing in food, and he's doing stuff that. And for all I know, he's married to one of the helpers. I don't know.
Remember, he used to do that, Jeffrey. Remember that Derek Brown?
Yeah, yep. You're exactly right.
Marlon Davidson. It's always guys that are great and leaders too.
Look, you don't get any more Auburn than that. When you're power lifting in cowboy boots and riding horses, look, that's Auburn to a T. And you got to give Will Friend and Carnell Williams a lot of credit for being able to scout that kid during the COVID year. He didn't have a ton of offers. I think Iowa and Mississippi State were our biggest competition. There were other kids that were higher ranked. I'm trying to think of the kid out of Atlanta that committed to Tennessee and then subsequently Miami.
Justin Williams, maybe.
And not Justin Williams. He was being trained by Brad Lester. I'm trying to think of the kid's name. Cody Brown.
Yeah, Cody Brown.
That everybody, that wanted Auburn to take the kid because he was the more highly ranked player. Jarquez has far outshone him, and it shows you sometimes that the evaluation matters. The stars don't always matter. They do for the most part, but they don't always matter. And sometimes you can pluck some of those Mississippi 3 stars, and they turn out to be gems.
You think him helping out and being a face of the program like that isn't big for these Mississippi recruits that Auburn's trying to get right now?
100%.
Derek Hall being mentioned by Mel Kiper as a first round mock draft guy, another Mississippi guy.
Yeah,
probably a good year to Mississippi if we're being honest. And Hugh Freeze knows about Mississippi, so.
Oh yeah.
We get this question on Jackson Dart. Do you think Jhead's the best one for that?
With Zach falling to the back. Leonard Estes, if Jackson Dart falls down the depth chart at Mississippi, would he look to transfer? I don't know. I don't have any connections to Jackson Dart. Would he look to transfer, and would Auburn be interested? If Auburn, let's just say he were to enter the transfer portal May the 1st, would Auburn be interested?
I don't know how far he is in school academically.
So
he's transferred once.
I listened to Tyler Siskey the other day, who has connections to the Ole Miss program, who said that there is the potential that he could graduate or be a graduate transfer by this summer.
Okay.
If that would be the only way he would be eligible to play at Auburn, I seriously doubt he'd get a waiver to play at Auburn because he's on his second transfer right now. So the only way he'd be eligible is as a graduate transfer. If he were to get a waiver, it would be to go closer to home. And I think the kid's originally from Utah. So you're probably talking BYU, University of Utah, maybe UNLV, something of that nature that would get
Boise.
Utah makes sense because Cam Rising's coming back for one more year.
Yeah.
Right.
And he could just slide right. I mean, I don't know.
Is Jackson Dart a guy y'all would, Jhead as a fan, is that a guy you would want Auburn to pursue? If he were, I listen. I don't at Auburn. I don't think you take Ole Miss's leftovers. I mean, if he can't win the job at Ole Miss,
put it this way, Jeffrey: if they weren't if they weren't gung ho about Spencer Sanders, he's the one that would subsequently beat out Jackson.
Right. Who was the other one? They signed a freshman,
Walker Howard. Now, I would say this. Let's see what Robbie and Holden look like in the spring before I start to say whether or not we would turn our nose up at
I'm turning my nose
Jackson
up at
Dart.
him right now.
I saw the kid. He played tough this year. I saw him stand in the pocket and take some shots. It all depends to me on how Robbie and Holden look in the spring and how much Hugh Freeze thinks he needs to upgrade that quarterback room as to who they pursue moving forward. I think if they had their preference, they'd be bringing in a one-year guy that they're really high on that gives them an opportunity not to have to add or hurt their recruiting moving forward, right? I mean, I think all attention's on Walker White and making sure that you get him in this class and that there's a selling point of potential playing time. You don't want to have a situation where you've got a multi-year guy coming in there that's going to hamper you from this kid thinking he's potentially going to see the field.
Well, I could see you getting a 2-year guy, Jhead, because if you sign a guy like a Walker White this year, do you want him to start as a true freshman? The only thing is, if you bring in a 2-year guy and he becomes your guy, you probably lose the other guys behind him.
Absolutely.
It's such a slippery slope, man. You know what I mean?
It is. It's hard to stack a quarterback room in the day and age of the transfer portal. It really is.
It's tough. It's tough to have developmental guys. Nobody wants to be developed anymore. They want to play.
No.
Leonard follows up with, hey, this is a good one for you, Keith. Trent Seaborn. Was he there this weekend?
He was there, and I haven't written about him yet. We're going to save that one for tomorrow morning. I know other people have written about him, but I got some good time with him. And he had a great visit, 2027 quarterback from Thompson High School in Alabaster, Alabama, for those that don't know. He played in the state championship game that Thompson won, had a big game, 200 yards, I think 4 touchdown passes, split time during the season as an 8th grader, but he's already 6 foot, 175. I think he's like 160 pounds, but he's a great young guy, man. I mean,
he is
on his shoulders. He's such a good talker and a good interview. And he sounds like a guy that's 20 in it, but then you pan to his face and you're like, man, he looks 13.
Yeah, he is.
He's 14.
Hey, he's 14 and he turns 15 in April.
Yeah, but
hey.
I think he's mature beyond his years. You know, he's like 17, 18-year-old. So he's already got over a dozen offers, and he had a great visit yesterday. He's connecting with Hugh Freeze. He's connecting with the OC, Philip Montgomery. I think he's going to be a guy that we see a lot of at Auburn the next few years. Now, in which direction his recruitment's going to go, we won't know for 2 years minimum, you know? Minimum.
Yeah, file him away.
Pardon?
He file him away. He's the guy he's the guy you want to see back on campus many times. You want to see him at many games over the next 2 years.
Remember what we said that we thought, Jeffrey, you and I thought coaches were high school coaches that like Freeze so much were planting good seeds in these kids' head. Well, his coach, Mark Freeman, popular coach in the state of Alabama. People always say, oh, his best guys go to Bama. Well, Peter Woods from his team went to Clemson. That's not entirely true, but he's a guy that likes Hugh Freeze. So that's not a bad guy. I mean, you know, everybody you could think one thing, but you know, if first of all, he's not steer anybody.
Brian Harsin didn't do a lot of help there. At Thompson.
But I think that look, I mean, obviously Trent's going to want to see now what Hugh's done in the past is more significant to a guy in the 2024 class. A guy in the 2027 class, by the time it's time for him to decide, he will have a wall full of paintings of Hugh Freeze's masterpieces and duds over the next 3 years, which preferably more masterpieces to look at to determine where he wants to go. So he's got plenty of time, but they made a hell of a first impression.
Good stuff. Yeah. Good stuff there, Leonard. Harley wants to know, rather have 204 over 13. What's y'all's mindset with Fat following the visit? Fat Burnett, Jamarian Burnett, the 4-star running back out of Andalusia. What's your mindset with Fat? I talked to him. I heard him. I went back and forth with him, questioned him about his thoughts on the day.
I'll tell you what I'm thinking, Jeffrey.
This right here is exactly what I'm thinking. I can't put it into words, but that's just how.
I saw a lot of running backs. I know there's other running backs that are interested in Auburn and vice versa. So maybe they're gonna make sure that they get the best back, and I think they like him. He's definitely a top guy, but there's a lot of good backs in this class.
Very much so.
Yeah.
They may take two. They may take 2 backs in this class.
Yeah, because if Jarquez has a good year, a really good strong year, you might not get a 4th season out of him. So I could see them. I could see a path where they're taking 2.
And I'm not saying that they're not showing Jamarian Burnett the attention he needs. I think they still like him. I think they're still recruiting him. They would take him for sure. I just think there's a lot of backs on the board, personally. Brandon Hood is a guy that which is Colton Hood's little brother. Talked to him, always a great interview with him. I got to meet him twice when I went to see Colton and DJ Chester in person twice. He's a good running back, runs the 100-meter in under 11. So that's he could get an offer at any time.
10-8 is what Colton told us when he came on to the National Signing Day show. If you're running 10-8 in the 100 non-win assisted, dude, that's moving.
Well, for a running back.
Yes.
If you're Deion Sanders, that's a bad day. But if you're a running back, that's pretty doggone good. But I don't know. We don't know enough. At least I don't with the Burnett situation. I think sometimes, again, that was we discussed this. That's not everybody's always going to be thrilled with how everything goes.
No.
But everybody that I talked to was, and I guess Cole, you had a little bit different situation, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's only January, and you're going to go out in April, May as well, and you're going to be able to evaluate. They're going to be able to watch practices, and they may have an entirely different board at some of these positions after they go out and see kids.
There's limited highlights on these kids right now.
Yeah.
Right.
And getting to see a kid in person and getting their measurements and understanding what it is that they do well, the more interact, because this is a brand new staff. If Carnell Williams wants this kid, we'll know because he'll be here during spring practice, right? They'll get that kid back if they really want him. But right now, we're still kind of feeling our way through this. And I think they probably are to a degree as well as to who do they truly want? Because the last thing you want to do is take a commitment from a kid that you're unsure about. And then you're that person that's got to break a commitment later on down the line if you're truly not sold on it.
So, and it's even doubly tricky when it's in state.
Correct.
You don't want to screw that up. You don't want to, people would get mad at Gus's staff. Remember, Jeffrey, people would be like, why didn't they offer this guy earlier? And it's like, nobody gets mad at Bama when they wait to offer somebody.
Right.
But everybody gets mad at Auburn and say, well, because if you're not sure in February, you can't take a kid. It's if the kid doesn't want to wait till October, that's fine. That's his prerogative. But a school has to do things on their clock. Okay. Yeah. There's great players at every position. And I think they're putting out a lot of they're throwing a lot of lines in the water. Am I getting my Southern diction right here?
How about you?
Everybody. But and especially now, the position that I was most intrigued by, again, just totally off point, but the linebacker position, Cole, you mentioned this last week. You were excited to see all these linebackers coming in, and man, there were more than I thought were coming. There were more offers that have gone out, and all of a sudden, they got to have a pretty good haul at linebacker now. They got to take a few guys, and all of a sudden, you're thinking things are trending in the right direction here. There too. So. But back to Burnett, it's I can't really get my arms around that one yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I've had 2 minutes with him, and I really haven't heard a rebut from the other side. So I'm waiting to see on him. Like Jhead said, he'll be back in the spring. And listen, despite complaining, he still said Auburn was a top school for me. Not a top school, but a top school.
That's not going to change. Somebody maybe said, I don't remember who it was, nobody's going to make a decision based off of junior day necessarily, but they'll make a decision to come back, right?
Yeah.
I think maybe that was you, Keith, that said that, right?
No, it wasn't. No. It might have been somebody that was just passing through. I don't know. I don't know.
That's a pretty true statement, I think. Yeah. I don't think anybody's going to make or break it, even though it was a big crowd and some guys didn't like that. That didn't change anything with their recruitment with Auburn at all, in my opinion.
Let's see. Buddy Colt wants to know how many O-linemen Auburn will sign. I think it's.
I would think 4 from the high school ranks probably, because you're losing 4. So you've got the kid from East Carolina that just transferred in, who's a 1-year guy. You've got the kid from Western Kentucky who's a 1-year guy. You've got Jaleel Irvin, who's got 1 year left, and Cam Stutz, who's got 1 year left. So that's 4 off the top. And that's without any other attrition. So I would think 4 from the high school ranks probably, and then anything after that might be transferred.
And that's just right now. This is going to change a lot. Before the fall. At the end of the summer, we'll know a lot more about where the needs will be and what the numbers are going to look like. It's still, it's still signing day is not even here yet for 2023.
Yeah,
correct.
So it's a little early, buddy, to be specific on the numbers at positions. Although quarterback, running back, places like that are a little bit easier
I think it's going to be a big number, and I think they're going to be it's maybe a big portal number on the O-line again.
I think it's going to always be a big number as long as Hugh Freeze is here. I really do.
Yeah. Jhead, what do you think here? What's going on?
My kid just fell down.
Oh, okay.
He's playing right there on the wood floor.
Rub some dirt on it and get back in there.
That's not what he to say.
Hey, this is a good one, M. Jones. Priority for Jordan Ross out of Vestavia. We talked about him visiting today, and we'll try to get up with him this evening. I've been messaging back and forth with him. He is – I didn't realize this. Now, again, I'm kind of new to the 2024 class because of the transfer portal and everything else the past 6 weeks. But Jordan Ross, I think he's the number 77 overall player in the country. He's from Vestavia. He's a top 10 edge, 4-star. And so as far as priority goes, there's a lot of those guys too. Cole, we talked about the linebackers and stuff, but there's a lot of edges too. And edge is going to be like linebacker. It's going to be a big priority for Auburn. It's going to
Listen, this rebuild wasn't just this winter, Jeffrey.
Right, exactly.
They're going to be playing catch up for another 12 months.
Yeah.
To get the roster back. You don't just, even with the portal, even with the NCAA not limiting, again, the next 2 years, this year and next year, you can sign as many as you want as long as you don't go over the 85 total. Even with that, man, Auburn we'd seen it. There's been 3 subpar recruiting classes in a row, and then a bunch of guys leave, and through attrition, and the roster was not in a good place. So they're only in step 1. Okay. So I think a lot of these positions are going to see some big hauls next year too.
Hey, Keith, I got something for you real quick.
Yeah, what's up?
Brian Longwell, we talked about him, the signing day coming up. He just committed to Vanderbilt.
There you go. Good for him.
Take
Good
him
player.
off the board. Not that he was good player.
Real quick on the edge thing, I've heard the term jack linebacker thrown around a lot.
Yeah. I think that's the new thing.
Which, Rock Bellantoni was the edge coach. Now, you don't have that now with this staff. It's going to be Aldridge recruiting those jack linebackers, but they also have an edge that they consider more of a down lineman too, that Jeremy
So, like a Colby Wooden?
Yes. Now, maybe more like a Derek Hall.
Okay.
In this defense. So 3 guys I know that they like at jack: Joseph Phillips from Tuskegee.
Yes, sir.
DeMarcus Riddick and Jordan Ross.
Okay, I was going to say Devin Smith from South Georgia. I would have thought that he would have played out there as well.
I asked him. He said they talked to him about both jack and box.
Okay.
So box linebacker as well. So they like him, by the way. That's a guy.
Yeah, he's got some twitch, Cole. I took a look at him and Joseph Phillips' film, and you're talking about mirror images of guys that can really come off the edge.
He got offered by Alabama while he was at Auburn, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Can I say one I liked yesterday? They really layered the classes out well. There were a bunch of good 2025s there too.
Oh, yeah.
2026s. They put out at least one 2026 offer that I know of. A kid from the Atlanta area that Cole and I talked to before the event even started. We could just tell.
Another one from Jackson, Mississippi.
Yeah. You just look at some guys and you're like, that guy, you could tell this guy had Robert Condici calves, okay? And Cole was salivating. And
who was the big lineman?
The ankles, Keith. The ankles.
That was the kid, I think. Josh Morrow?
Was it the big white kid with shorts on? And
no, that was a 26.
That's what I thought.
He said he was about 6'5", 300 already.
He's from Mobile somewhere, right?
There were some very old dudes there and young guys. And so, you're starting to cultivate relationships. So a kid that's 2025 or 2026, which means they're a sophomore or freshman in high school right now, you don't need to spend 30 minutes with them. 2 minutes with them makes their day. Makes their day, okay? And then you get them back and you spend more time with them and you start building that relationship. So I like what I saw and heard yesterday.
Tiger Brother brings up a good angle to the running back room, and I thought Alvin Henderson was at least worth mentioning. Alvin Henderson, the 2025. If he's not a 5-star, he probably is in a lot of people's minds. Where's he from?
Elba, Alabama.
Elba, Alabama. Alvin visited Auburn last weekend, and said, hey, I'll come back whenever they want me to. Well, absolutely, they're going to want him to, and I feel like he has the relation. You talking about Cadillac Williams and the relationships he makes with these kids? Yeah, so important, man. That relationship alone will get this kid back whenever they want him.
He's referring to the quote, Jeffrey, that he told me when I wrote the story about it.
Yeah, I'll come back whenever they want me to. Right?
He said, "Whenever Coach Cadillac calls me, I will be here." He said that to. I mean, he had that serious look about it too. I was like, "Oh, well, that's the headline right there, no doubt." By the way, Jhead is our Elba correspondent. If you ever need anything.
Oh, okay.
And you know what, Cole? You actually mentioned that courthouse in Elba. I grew up basically in that courthouse. My dad worked in that courthouse for 30 years as a judge. So you speak in my language, my man. But a little checking in on Alvin Henderson. Nick Saban was by to see him this week. They're a little nervous about Alvin Henderson and the relationship with Auburn, and specifically that relationship with Cornell Williams. And if Cornell is at Auburn, in 2025, we are going to have a shot with this young man. There is a deep, good relationship there with him and Alvin Henderson.
His recruitment. Listen, Carnell Williams is what got me into this business.
Right.
I remember his recruitment. That was the first really recruitment I started following in the papers,
Yeah.
And this guy's recruitment is starting to remind me of him. He's this guy that everybody wants. And don't get me wrong, there's some great running backs in the state, but this guy, for whatever reason, it feels like he's different. Like he could be a potential program changer. Am I wrong in that?
No.
I mean, he's different.
Look, and there's two of them in that class in particular, and both of them. All right, one of them has a very strong connection to Carnell Williams. The other one is Ryan Williams, the wide receiver from Saraland. Yes. You're talking about two game breakers and game changers, and this staff is all in on those kids. They know they're playing behind in 2024, and they're going to get a good class. They're just trying to, do the best they possibly can. They know 2025. That's the table setting. And in the state of Alabama, it's as deep as it was in 2023.
Yep.
But more with skill talent.
Yeah.
Then 2023 was more about defensive linemen and offensive linemen. It felt like the big guys. 2025 is stacked at the skill position. And look, give Jason Caldwell credit because he got this one right. Ryan Williams is like a stretched out Peter Warrick. Okay. Do you remember how electric Peter Warrick was at Florida State back in the day?
Keith does.
That is it. I know he does. Look at him.
Should have won the Heisman.
Yes, he should have.
Except for that little off the field thing. But yeah.
You had that. But this kid is absolutely. But Alvin Henderson reminds me. I mean, I'm talking about to a T of what Carnell was like, what he played like. That a little bit smaller back that's looking for contact, that has the ability to cut in the open field. The vision. He's got the whole package. If he takes care of himself and adds size the way he needs to, you're talking about an elite player.
I'll tell you what, there's another running back, Anthony Rogers.
Turbo.
I think, is he 2025?
25.
From Pike Road. Hey, Keith, here's a one for you. Here's a question for you. Jason Bird wants to know Walker White, QB1, Jake Merklinger.
We think. Right. I mean, that's where the emphasis has been. We know that that Hugh Freeze was there on day one of the contact period. We know that Philip Montgomery's been there at least twice, and quite possibly might have been there a third time. I don't know.
Once a week.
They don't give us a list of visits, but he visited a few weeks ago. That went great. He did go to Clemson over the weekend. All the reports are that went great too. This isn't a surprise. He wants good QB coaching. He wants to win, and he's a very, religious, faith-based, very strong, religious young man. And so Dabo Sweeney and Hugh Freeze, guys that he's connecting with. So it's not a surprise. We think that, I don't think he's going to drag this out, guys. And I think Auburn's very much in it.
No, I don't think that long.
Jake Merlinger would maybe be the next guy. He's from Savannah. He could.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Merlinger?
I say Merklinger.
Yeah. I think it is Merklinger.
I'm just going to call him Jake the Snake. And
there you go.
No, but he had a basketball games this weekend. I don't think he's going to be able to take visits until March. But that's another guy. They like Hugh Freeze went to his school last week.
Who was the kid that left early yesterday, and I got him, and I put him up? He had to go to a basketball game. Was it Anthony Rogers?
Yes. Yeah.
It was Anthony Rogers. Okay. Jhead, I'm sorry. Go ahead, big dog.
No, I was going to say I had the image in my mind when you guys said a faith-based background and then him being interested in Texas A&M potentially with Bobby Petrino and Jimbo on the sideline.
Oh.
Hey, seriously, though, I think this is an Auburn-Clemson battle. That's my goal.
I agree. I agree, Cole. I think that's exactly where it's headed.
Well, there's your two faith-based head coaches.
I thought that for a few weeks.
Yes, Keith has been saying that. Dabo's the same way.
Well, we'll see. Watch him commit.
Yeah.
Ole Miss has
thought go to UNLV or something.
Ole Miss seemed to have confidence with Walker White for a while, and then
dude, Ole Miss has got confidence in every quarterback that even sneezes their way.
I know we don't have all night, but I got to get back to. I didn't know Jhead's dad was a judge. We got to.
We will have to revisit.
We can unpack this story later.
I'm thinking either my cousin Vinny type judge.
Me too. That's exactly what I thought.
Or maybe Judge Smales, who was very tough but fair. He sent many men to the gas chamber. He didn't want to, but he felt like he had to. You know, so we're
Was
going
he
to
criminal, Jhead?
Yeah, he was a circuit court judge in Pike and Coffee County.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. I bet your dad before they had. Sure have.
Yeah, Cole had a plea deal.
We met him a couple times, actually.
I used to work for the court system. There you go.
Did you? Okay, we
Sure
can talk
did.
offline on that then for sure.
We'll have to, yeah.
Here's one for you, Cole. Swayback wants to know. You mentioned a while back that we ran more formation, run formation, that we. You can read it.
All right. He ran more run formations after Harsin left when Will Friend took over. Will Friend as a play caller, Cadillac as the head coach. Mid zone and wide zone is what I called it. That was my terminology. I don't know what they call it because they are at practice and I'm not. That's my terminology for what I've learned about it. That was all I saw when I broke down the game. I did every single play by play on our board. For those that are subscribed to us, you've seen that before. You know, when Will Friend took over, buck sweep, and I'm not going to speak on this. We're on recruiting tonight, but yeah, he started to do more run schemes and it worked. Of course, he kind of turned Auburn into a service academy, running the football at the time, and that's not going to happen anymore. And even if Robbie Ashford's the quarterback, they're going to get him throwing the ball more. Okay, that you can't win running the ball that much in the SEC. You got to be able to throw the ball. So Freeze is going to have a lot more schemes. He always has everywhere he's been. Liberty, Ole Miss, all of it. He's got several schemes and he likes to mix it up, kind of like Ron Roberts likes to mix his fronts. I think Freeze is real multiple with the run game.
He is. And,
Okay.
oh, go ahead, Keith. I'm sorry.
I had a lot of time to think about this staff during these drives. It's a pretty impressive staff, man.
It is.
Experienced OC that's had a Heisman winner. Freeze's success with QBs and and scoring points against very good defenses. Cadillac Williams,
Roberts.
Yeah, I mean,
all Prime Dog.
And all the young guys all seem Aldridge,
Jake Thornton,
Jeremy Garrett,
Marcus Davis.
They're comers. Ben, the tight ends coach.
Yeah, Jake Thornton.
Up and comers. And then you got Zach and McGriff, who, man, that is a hell of a recruiting tandem. Zach's a funny guy too, by the way, but he's a little bit more of the,
Yeah.
McGriff's the guy McGriff's kind of like the Joker,
Yeah.
And they can really kind of go at people from both ends. And I think fans, you can tell we're all acting differently. We're observing things. I think fans should be excited. And Jay, I interrupted you. So
no, you're good. What I was going to say is, Cole, it's going to be an interesting mix with Philip Montgomery and kind of that veer and shoot offense they invented at Baylor and those wide splits with the wide receivers.
Yeah.
Combined with Hugh Freeze's three surface offense. And obviously they both have a heavy package of RPOs, which suits who we have in the quarterback room right now and probably the running backs as well. But I'm going to be interested to see with the run selection kind of how they do that and how they incorporate what each have been successful with. Is it going to be a complete mesh? Is it going to be, 70% Hugh, 30% Montgomery? Who's going to be play calling? It's really, I assume Montgomery is going to be the play caller completely. I don't think he would have brought him in if he wasn't going to be.
You know what?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'd cut you off. To tie it into recruiting, offensive lineman from Nashville, Tennessee, John Wayne Oliver,
yes,
who was at Auburn yesterday, and I think there's a question in the comments about him, but he was telling me about Jake Thornton really kind of laid out the offense for him yesterday and said, look, we're no huddle, we're up tempo, but we run the football, which is honestly kind of like what Gus did in his early years at Auburn.
Listen,
had success with it.
That's the style, and Auburn fans love that style. It worked when you had the right guys in it.
I liked watching it.
And Gus ripped off a lot of his run game from Art Briles and that veer and shoot. His power at smash mouth spread. And when I say ripped off, look, these guys all do kind of the same thing,
right.
But some of the influence that Gus had in his offense absolutely came from that Baylor system. So they could definitely run the ball. And I will say this. We've talked about Robbie as a quarterback and being developed. There was not a more raw quarterback than RG3 when Philip Montgomery got his hands on him.
Yeah.
Like track athlete, barely played quarterback his senior year type raw, and then turned him into a Heisman. can they develop Robbie at all into something that mirrors him athletically speaking? You hope. I mean, that's if you don't bring in a transfer. But look, you got some serious development chops from a quarterback position between Hugh Freeze, Philip Montgomery, and obviously Ken Austin.
Yeah.
A lot of guys on, and look, Jess Stone has worked with a lot of the new quarterback analyst has worked with a lot of quarterbacks as well. So don't sleep on anybody on this staff.
He didn't really mess around. He didn't really mess around when he put together this staff. He got guys, including one of the new defensive line assistants,
Fontrell King Williams.
He was a full-time coach at another school.
Eastern Michigan.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Eastern Michigan. Okay. Well, that's a path. There's been plenty of guys out of that Mid-America Conference that were position coaches there and ended up being head coaches at big schools. Okay. And so, and then Ken Austin. And it tells me a couple things. One, they're spending money to put together the best staff they can. Two, I think people like working for this guy.
Yeah.
I agree. And
by the way, I was talking to I'll just say high school coach who knows all these guys. And he said, man, the guy he's been talking to just raves about Freeze. I believe maybe Jeffrey and I were talking to an Auburn coach yesterday. We won't say who. And they said, man, it's just night and day. It's just, I like coming to work more than I did before, kind of attitude, And they were not taking a shot at the line. It was more of a elevating Freeze.
Yeah.
It wasn't putting the hammer on the last guy. It was no disrespectful to him at all in that conversation. It was more of about, boy, this Freeze, man, this guy, they like working for. Now he's going to tighten it up in spring practice, obviously. And then come fall, like Gus used to, I'm dying thinking about this.
Smoky Northern.
Yeah.
Gus would get pretty tight come August 1st now. But so far, man, so far, I mean, he's loose as a goose and
he's fun, man.
He's connecting with recruits. He's nice to us. Okay, people say, well, okay, who cares about you guys? Well, how about how you just treat everybody?
Yeah.
We're part of the group, everybody, right? Barely, but we are. And it's a good vibe over there, good energy.
And not just him, the assistant coaches. I mean,
another guy, Jeffrey.
There were some cold ass people last year. I mean, they were cold. There were some, like that. I don't know if they had resting bastard face or what, but they were just. I didn't want. They're unapproachable, and I thought, how is this going to transition to recruiting? Guess what?
Right.
It didn't.
You talked about Vontrell King Williams. There's another guy on staff, and one of the reasons that Josh Aldridge. I mean, this is another good recruiting duo.
I know where you're going. Yeah.
Josh Lynham is an assistant now. He was the linebackers coach at Jacksonville State for the past year or two. And he was also the guy that made the big pick in the big upset in 2009, 2010, UCF over Georgia in the Independence Bowl.
Yes.
Yeah. So
good player.
I can shout out to one more off the field guy, Ty Holder. Who's went to Tampa Catholic. Good city to have connections in. And we hear good things about him. We're not hearing bad things about anybody.
I see things. I see. Ty is he is very at the forefront of Auburn's recruiting on campus. That dude, that dude's working when he's there. He's fun to watch, and you see him when you're up there. You see him. He's in and out that front door.
Two things. One, how big was it that Hugh Freeze came in at $6.5 million versus having to pay Lane Kiffin $9+ million. And now he's being able to pour this into this off the field staff. And two, I think we're getting an added bump here because the NCAA Transformation Committee is getting ready to make a massive change where off the field staff can coach during the week on the field. And there are a lot of guys that want to get their foot into a Power 5 program that don't want to sacrifice being a game day coach or being an on the field coach. Well, now you get the opportunity to do that. And you're not constantly cutting up film or whatever else you would be doing in an analyst role. You're more hands-on. I think that now look, that takes nothing away from Hugh putting this staff together. But I do think you're getting a more quality candidate right now in these off-the-field roles because of that opportunity being presented. And probably the money that's being given to them because you had a head coach that was willing to take less.
Hey, let's we're running out of time here. Let's hit at some of these questions real quick.
Hayden's got one here.
Hayden physically shocked you. Hold I wasn't shocked by anybody. I thought Justin Green was impressive. I thought DeMarcus Riddick was impressive. I didn't get to see Joseph Phillips, but I really wanted to see him. I thought
Hezekiah Harris, who is a 2026 from Anniston, Alabama. My goodness, he's like 6'6". That's crazy.
But those, I thought DeMarcus Riddick and who else did I say?
Justin Green.
I'm going to say James Morrow. I said Josh Morrow earlier. James Morrow is the 2026 defensive lineman from Atlanta, already 6'4", 230.
Hey, I tell you who physically shocked me. He's just now a non-recruit, but Rivaldo Fairweather came through.
Oh, man.
Camden Brown came through. And those two guys.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
God, I mean, watching Jeff bow to Camden Brown.
I'll bend the knee, baby.
But that's your start next, and you starting Y right there. You can bank on it.
Hey, talk about a great.
Camden said he's starting next, Jhead.
He is starting next.
Okay, all right.
I believe it.
Not Nardner.
Oh, we got some questions. Sorry.
Yeah, we're supposed to hit the lightning round. All right, Kevin Kelly. Who will be the starting running backs for Auburn football this fall? Does anybody disagree that it'll be Jarquez Hunter?
No. Followed by Damari Alston, I think. I think that'll be your 1-2.
And your shakeup will be Batty?
I say Batiste next.
Okay.
Those are your top three.
I'm going to say 2A and 2B, Damari and Batiste.
Well put.
Oh, Neek wants to know if you could pick one of Auburn's current targets to become a part of the 2024 class, who would you choose? Going with Nee, I would probably say Walker White.
Yes.
Is that his name?
Huge.
I've been watching freaking Breaking Bad since we started talking about this. I've been restreaming Walker. Yeah, Walker White. I want to see a stud quarterback under Hugh Freeze for 3-4 years.
And maybe you can get other. Now we always say this, and you always think people are going to gravitate toward him. And we thought that might happen when Bo committed early, and it doesn't always work out that way. Yeah. But it would help these guys because so far they're getting everybody. There hasn't been much movement at quarterback. You get him, and hey, this is the vision now.
Yeah, let's see. Good stuff though, Nick.
Joseph Phillips is my pick.
Joseph Phillips. Yeah. Kenneth Bridgeforth. How much is the new football facility helping with recruiting? Keith, tremendously.
A lot. It is more than I thought.
It is.
I mean, look, NIL, all that stuff's going to matter. Wins, losses. How much do they throw to this guy? How much does this guy run? All that stuff.
When I look at the football facility,
that's left a big impression on them.
When I look at this new facility, I think back 6 months ago at what these other recruits were walking through over at the old complex, and I'm going, God bless America.
It's night and day. Yeah.
It's
walking into the dungeon.
Keith, we knew that old complex was embarrassing, wasn't it?
It was.
It was bad.
But when you see what everybody else has done, then you go.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Comparably speaking, no, it was embarrassing.
Listen, not only did we think that, but the former staffs would sometimes. Now, yesterday they started the junior day at the stadium because they had so many people. They didn't have enough parking spaces, I think, over at the football complex. And they wanted to do some other things first. But some of the old previous staffs actually started the visits at the stadium for the sole purpose of they didn't want the football facility, the old one, to be the first thing that the kids saw. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't just us that thought that. It was
You're right. Yeah. Yep, they started at in the recruiting lounge, the new recruiting lounge at the stadium. That was kind of their HQ. Yeah. Rochid K. Missed the early part of the show. Big picture. How would you guys grade the weekend? Hey, this is a fair question. How would you grade it, Keith?
I mean, 8.5 to 9 in that range.
Solid B to A minus.
That's a good rating, by the way.
Keith is pretty. Keith is He's a tough.
Yeah, that's surprising. That's surprising.
I would say A minus.
Yeah,
I'm right below. I'm a notch below you, Keith, like maybe 8 or 7.5, just because of the.
Get the hell out of here! Are you serious? A C?
Yeah, B minus.
No,
I'm going to go B plus. It would have been if you'd have had a 5-star big. I mean, like you had big names there. Don't get me wrong, and I'm talking about guys that potentially could be on the cusp of 5-star. But if you had
guys might be 5 stars before long,
right? You know what I mean? Like if you'd have had that, or you'd have gotten. I'd take that back. If you'd have gotten a commitment this weekend to be able to put that out there, that gets me into an A. But I'm going B plus.
All right, fair enough. Whatever. Tough crowd right here, folks. Julius Lane, I have never heard of Julius Lane.
I did not know. Buck 50. We got to tell you. So we just so everybody knows, we don't get a list. We put together the list ourselves. We work off that, and when kids are in line, we go up and we say, "Hey, who are you?" If we don't know who they are, and sometimes they just get inside the building. If you're Auburn, you don't want us bothering these guys. You know what I mean? So, and then afterwards, it's like a cattle call. The kids are just leaving all at once, and our heads are exploding. So, forgive us. We don't always get to interview everybody. We try to get to as many of them as we can. We start with the guys we definitely, know and.
I spoke very, very, very briefly with Julius Lane. He's a 2025 from Pike Road.
Okay,
Good.
all right.
What do you have to say?
He's a small guy. He's very small. I think he's maybe 150 pounds. So
okay.
Young guy.
Tiger Brothers back. He wants to know any 23 surprises for signing day. Signing day is Wednesday. And listen, if they sign anybody other than Jeremiah Cobb, it will be a surprise to me. Yeah. Will James came in for an unofficial visit. He's a defensive back from Theodore. I haven't heard his name lately. I checked today. It didn't sound again, if they sign anybody other than Jeremiah Cobb, it'll be a surprise to me. So there you go. At least right now, Tiger Brother. Yeah. Eric May, how do y'all feel about John Wayne? He was a damn good actor back in the day.
The Duke?
Dude,
he wasn't that great, but he was popular. But
I've never seen this film.
First of all, let me just tell you, Cole interviewed him, but I talked to him beforehand. Great kid. He had a few people in his name. He's definitely named after John Wayne.
Yes,
John Wayne, or a serial killer, right?
John Wayne.
That's John Wayne Gacy.
He goes by John Wayne.
John Wayne Bobbitt's, never mind.
Easy.
John, right? And he goes, I actually do go by John Wayne. I said, that's awesome. I love that.
John
Wayne Oliver from Nashville. Good young player, unrated, but picking up big offers. We know Michigan's offered them. They've had the award-winning offensive line the last 2 years. So for best in college football. Cole talked to him, but I felt going in, if Auburn hit a home run, they could certainly be in it. So Cole, you take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, he said they were at the top, not the number one school, but he still, he said it was probably the best visit he's been on, one of the best. He's been to Michigan, he's been to Florida State. Those schools are recruiting him pretty hard. Still got those offers coming, so he's going to take his time with that. But he did tell me he wants to be committed before his senior season, which would be this coming August.
One other thing, football family had an uncle play on Nick Saban's LSU national championship team as a tight end. So he's in a football family.
Okay.
Yeah, you can tell he's got the genes. I mean, a skinny guy, honestly, for an offensive lineman, but you can tell he's got the frame where he can fill out and be, and I think there's a lot of skinny guys there, honestly, offensive line. Egan Boyer's kind of a skinny guy, tall, skinny. Seems like maybe Jake Thornton likes those kind of guys to develop, and they're in a situation now where they can start developing kids instead of having to get somebody to start day one.
Two other big offers. Florida State and Alex Atkins, who's one of the premier offensive line recruiters in the country, has offered him from Florida State, and Miami and Mario Cristobal. And look, for all of Mario's faults, he knows offensive linemen. So the fact that Michigan, Miami, and Florida State have all gone in on this kid along with Auburn makes me think he's much better than his current rating as far as that's concerned.
Most OL coaches, O-line coaches would rather tall and skinny, add good weight, than tall and chubby, having to take off that weight and bad eating habits.
Yeah. Hey, Derek Anderson wants to know about Dante Thornton, the wide receiver transfer from Oregon. He visited Auburn back in early December, but he ended up signing with Tennessee there, Derek, if I'm not mistaken, right? Tennessee. What do y'all think about the DB committed to Bama that was offered by Auburn for track? I don't know about him.
Jalen.
Yeah, Jalen.
I saw the tweet. I think Keith retweeted it. Maybe Cole did too.
I pronounce his last name Mbakwe.
Mbakwe.
Oh yeah, his brother's the number one player in the state.
Put it this way,
he's the number one player in the state.
He's from Clay Chalkville.
Is that right?
I don't know.
Jhead.
I'm out on this one.
Look,
yeah.
Look. I'll do this. What's
Well, to answer the question, we haven't heard much chatter. I don't believe he was there yesterday.
He wasn't, but there was a huge crew from Clay Chalkville, and he was not part of it. And that
And just so you know, so they offered him a track, and Auburn obviously, has some new track coaches. They're trying to build that program up, and If you can work together with your football program, we've seen it at Georgia, we've seen it at Florida, we've seen it at Florida State. If you can work with those guys and figure some things out, maybe it can get you in the game with somebody. But right now, we don't know much.
The number one player in the state of Alabama is Jalen Mbakwe from Clay Charlton. He's an athlete.
I wanted to tell you.
5'11", 170. He's committed to Alabama. DeMarcus Riddick, number 2. I don't know if that's the same guy. Is it? Is that who Auburn offered in track?
Yeah, it is.
Jalen? Okay, Auburn offered him. Jhead, you're talking about if they were one guy away from it being an A for you.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. I'm looking at the state of Alabama's top players for this year. Jalen Mbakwe, DeMarcus Riddick, Jordan Ross, Perry Thompson, Jeremiah Beeman, Mario Craver, who was there, also Kell.
Yes.
Mario Craver was Clay Chalkville. Kavion Henderson, Traveris Banks, Jamarian Burnett, Malcolm Simmons. Every one of those guys, except for Kavion Henderson, has been to Auburn and Mbakwe. So 80% of the top 10 players in the state of Alabama have been to Auburn in the past 7 days.
5 or 6 up there yesterday.
Yeah.
Massive change from just 1 or 2 years ago.
8 of the top 10 have been to Auburn in the past 7 days.
Yep.
So big day. Zach, we called up Big Dog.
Yep.
I know we went over, man. I'm sorry, Zach. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say we're caught up.
Okay. I hate that we went over, but we had a lot to go through. I know we try to keep it within an hour, but hey, I'm sure people won't mind. Keith and I will be back in the morning, man. We'll have a condensed version. We'll have an Inside the 20 in the morning. Y'all be on the lookout for that. We appreciate everybody calling in tonight. We had LG getting kicked off, Big Pat, Michael Floyd, Wardan, and Scott coming through there at the end, man. We appreciate everybody's questions. We appreciate the calls, comments. We appreciate everybody listening, man. We will be back tomorrow morning. Keith and I will be, and then all of the crew will be back on Friday to go a little bit more in depth as the Tigers enter the dead period. And we'll probably have some commitments to talk about on Friday. Oh, whew. Hey, thanks everybody. We appreciate everybody. For Pink, for Keith, for Jhead, for Zach in the back. I'm Jeffrey Lee, man. Y'all stay out of that left lane. See ya.